The wind howled like a hungry wolf across the desolate expanse of Nome, Alaska, in the winter of 1898. Elias Thorne, a man etched with the harsh lines of a life lived on the fringes of civilization, stood at the entrance of his makeshift claim. His breath plumed white in the frigid air, a stark contrast to the burning despair in his gut. The claim, his last gamble, had yielded nothing but frozen rock and false hope. Soon, even his faithful sled dog Coda, a magnificent Malamute whose eyes mirrored Elias's own weary soul, would have to be sold. The thought was a lead weight in his chest, heavier than any gold nugget he'd ever unearthed. The sky, a canvas of bruised purples and greys, churned ominously. A blizzard was brewing, the kind that could swallow a man whole and spit him out as a frozen memory. Elias had seen enough of them to know the signs. He turned to head back to his crude cabin, a structure barely more than 4 walls and a stove, when a faint, distant sound pierced the roaring wind. It was the frantic yelping of dogs, strained and desperate. Against his better judgment, a flicker of humanity, long dormant in his solitary existence, stirred within him. He harnessed Coda, pulling his fur-lined parka tighter, and urged the dog into the teeth of the approaching storm. The snow, fine as dust moments before, now whipped into stinging needles, obscuring his vision. He found them just as the first truly blinding gust hit. A collapsed sled, its team tangled and whimpering, and a figure huddled beside it, almost entirely swallowed by the accumulating snow. It was a woman, small and still, wrapped in layers of thick furs, an unfamiliar ornate pattern visible on her outer coat. She was unconscious, her face pale, the delicate features a stark contrast to the brutal landscape. Elias, despite his own dwindling strength, heaved her onto his sled. Coda, sensing the urgency, pulled with renewed vigor. The journey back to the cabin was a blur of wind, snow, and the silent, desperate prayer that flickered in Elias's mind. Inside the cabin, the meager warmth from the stove fought a losing battle against the cold that permeated the logs. Elias carefully unwrapped the woman, revealing a simple yet elegant Aleut dress beneath her furs. Her features, now visible in the dim light, were striking. High cheekbones, dark brows, and a delicate nose. She stirred, her eyelids fluttering open, to reveal eyes the color of deep sea, wide with confusion and a hint of fear. Where am I? Her voice was soft, laced with an accent Elias couldn't quite place. My cabin, Elias replied, his voice gruff from disuse. You were caught in the storm. Your sled was overturned. He learned her name was Kaylin, and she was an Aleut bride, traveling to Nome for an arranged marriage with a wealthy merchant named Dmitry Volkov. The words hung in the air, a stark reminder of the social chasm between them. He, a struggling prospector, she, a woman destined for a life of comfort, albeit one not of her choosing. As the blizzard raged outside, trapping them in the confines of the small cabin, a strange intimacy began to blossom. Kaylin, initially reserved, slowly opened up. She spoke of her village, nestled by the coast, of the traditions and expectations that had shaped her life. Elias, in turn, found himself sharing snippets of his own past, stories of his wanderlust, his dreams of striking it rich, and the quiet loneliness that had become his constant companion. He found himself captivated by her quiet strength, her resilience in the face of such an unexpected ordeal. One evening, as the wind howled its mournful song, Kaylin shivered despite the blankets. Elias, without thinking, moved closer, offering his own warmth. Their hands brushed, and a spark, unexpected and potent, ignited between them. He saw a mirroring of his own unspoken longing in her deep-set eyes. The world outside, with its blizzards and its gold rushes, faded into insignificance. In that isolated cabin, A connection forged in the heart of a storm began to deepen, threatening to unravel the carefully laid plans of two very different lives. Elias found himself wrestling with a powerful, unfamiliar emotion, a desire to protect her, to keep her safe, to simply keep her by his side. If you're enjoying this journey into the wilds of Alaska, remember to subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories. Your support helps us bring these narratives to life. The storm finally broke, leaving behind a world sparkling with a fresh, pristine layer of snow, deceptive in its beauty. The time had come for Kaylin to continue her journey to Nome and her arranged marriage. The unspoken farewell between her and Elias was heavy with regret, a silent acknowledgement of the connection they had forged. Elias, with Coda at his side, escorted her as far as the outskirts of Nome, where he spotted signs of a search party. He saw Dmitry Volkov, a man whose opulent furs and air of condescending authority were hard to miss, barking orders at a group of rough-looking men. A wave of unease washed over Elias. He felt a primal urge to pull Kaylin back, to shield her from the future that awaited her. He watched as Dmitry, upon seeing Kaylin, strode forward, his initial relief quickly morphing into a cold, possessive stare. The way he took her arm, almost pulling her, sent a shiver down Elias's spine. Kaylin glanced back at Elias, a flicker of fear in her eyes, before she was swept away. Elias returned to his cabin, the emptiness magnified by Kaylin's absence. The silence, once a comfort, now felt oppressive. Days turned into a week, then two. Elias, haunted by Kaylin's parting gaze, found himself unable to focus on his fruitless search for gold. He heard whispers in Nome of Volkov's dealings, of his ruthless ambition and the fear he inspired in the local population. It was said Volkov had a hand in many illicit ventures, from illegal trapping to shady land deals, his wealth built on the exploitation of others. One particularly harsh evening, as the temperature plummeted, Elias was in Nome, trying to trade some furs for supplies. He overheard a hushed conversation in the dimly lit corner of a saloon. Two prospectors, their faces grim, spoke of Volkov's cruelty, of a young Aleut woman who had been mistreated, driven to despair. A chill that had nothing to do with the Alaskan winter snaked through Elias. He couldn't shake the image of Kaylin's hesitant glance as she was led away. Driven by a growing dread, Elias decided to act. He knew where Volkov's lavish residence was located, a sprawling log cabin disproportionately grand for Nome, a testament to his ill-gotten gains. Under the cover of darkness, Elias approached the house, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He circled the perimeter, looking for any sign of Kaylin, any indication of her well-being. He found it in a small, unlit window at the back of the house. Through the frosted pane, he caught a glimpse of Kaylin. She was sitting by herself, her shoulders slumped, her usually bright eyes dull and shadowed. She looked thin, fragile, like a flower wilting in the Alaskan cold. The sight ignited a furious resolve in Elias. This was not the vibrant woman he had sheltered, not the spirit that had captivated him. As he watched, Volkov entered the room, his voice a low, menacing rumble that even through the glass conveyed anger. He saw Volkov grab Kaylin's arm, his grip rough, and she flinched, pulling away. The scene solidified Elias's conviction. Kaylin was in danger. He couldn't leave her to this fate. He knew then that his own survival, his own gold, meant nothing if he couldn't protect her. The silent promise he'd made to himself in that isolated cabin now demanded action. The following night, a fierce wind whipped snow around Nome, providing the perfect cover for Elias's desperate plan. He had gathered what little he had, a sturdy axe, a few tools, and the unwavering loyalty of Coda. Under the cloak of darkness, he returned to Volkov's residence. He found a secluded entrance, a back door that seemed less guarded. With the axe, he carefully pried open the wooden frame, the creaks swallowed by the howling wind. Inside, the house was quiet, save for the distant murmur of voices. He moved stealthily, navigating the unfamiliar layout, guided by the memory of Kaelin's shadowed face. He found her in the same room, huddled by a cold hearth, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and surprise when she saw him. "Elias," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "We need to go, Kaelin," he urged, his voice low and firm. "You're not safe here." Tears welled in her eyes. "I know. He's not who I thought. He's cruel." As they moved towards the back exit, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the main hall. Volkov, his voice sharp and angry, pierced the silence. "Who's there?" Elias pushed Kaelin through the door, urging her to run, to follow Koda, who had slipped out ahead. As he turned to follow, Volkov appeared, a shotgun glinting menacingly in his hands. You damned prospector! What are you doing in my house?" A struggle ensued. Elias, fueled by adrenaline and a protective fury, fought with a strength he hadn't known he possessed. The two men wrestled, the shotgun clattering to the floor. Elias, leveraging his knowledge of the harsh wilderness and his raw, untamed strength, managed to disarm Volkov, striking him with a swift, powerful blow that sent the merchant sprawling. Elias didn't wait. He grabbed Kaelin's hand, and they fled into the night, the wind whipping their faces, the snow blinding them. They ran until their lungs burned, until the lights of Nome were a distant, fading glow. They found refuge in Elias's cabin, the familiar walls a sanctuary from the dangers they had escaped. Kaelin, trembling from the cold and the ordeal, sat by the fire while Elias tended to her. As the warmth slowly returned to her limbs, she turned to him, her eyes filled with a profound gratitude and a newfound resolve. "Elias," she began, her voice stronger now, "there's something I must tell you, something I should have told you from the beginning." She took a deep breath, her gaze unwavering. "I am not Kaelin, the bride of Dmitri Volkov." Elias stared at her, a knot forming in his stomach. "My name is Lena," she confessed, her voice thick with emotion. "Kaelin was my older sister. She was to marry Volkov, but she fell ill and passed away shortly before her departure. My family, desperate for the alliance and fearing Volkov's wrath, forced me to take her place. They dressed me in her clothes, told me to use her name. They believed I was enough like her to pass." The confession hung in the air, a shocking revelation that resonated with the weight of her deceit, yet also with the depth of her courage. Elias felt a wave of conflicting emotions. Betrayal, yes, but also a surge of understanding for the impossible situation she had been forced into. He saw the genuine fear in her eyes, the burden she had carried. "I didn't want to lie to you, Elias," Lena continued, tears tracing paths down her cheeks. "But I was terrified of Volkov, of my family's shame, of this entire unknown world. But being with you, in that storm, it showed me a different path. It showed me what true kindness and courage look like." He reached out, gently touching her hand. The anger he felt was quickly overshadowed by a fierce protectiveness. Her vulnerability, her honesty now, only solidified his feelings. He understood the immense pressure she had been under. "You are safe now, Lena," he said, his voice soft, a promise echoing in the quiet cabin. "You don't have to pretend anymore." Lena looked at him, her eyes shining with relief and something more profound. "I know," she whispered, "and I don't want to go back. I want to stay here with you if you'll have me. I want to build a life where I can be myself." Elias, a man who had long prided himself on his self-reliance, his solitary existence, realized in that moment that his world had irrevocably changed. The gold he had sought now seemed meaningless. He had found something far more precious. He saw in Lena, in her bravery and her love, a future he had never dared to imagine. He knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, with Volkov's wrath and the harsh realities of the Alaskan wilderness. But with Lena by his side, he felt a strength he hadn't known he possessed. Their love, forged in deception and revealed in courage, was a defiant flame against the Alaskan cold, a testament to the power of authentic connection in a world filled with artifice and hardship. And that concludes The Forgotten Bride. Aboom, we hope you enjoyed this journey into the heart of Alaska. If you want to see more stories like this, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us.